just in case anybody's at home that needs to watch.
Let me know when you're ready on your end.
Okay, and we're live, so you guys are good to go.
Okay, well, we'll call the meeting to order. Since I'm in Hampstead, I get to use my mayoral gavel here that I've not used in 10 years, so we'll bang us in. All right, if you would, please rise for the pledge to the flag. My intern here at the law office, who's a senior at Man Valley, Jackson Klingenberg, he's gonna hold the flag for us. How about that? All right, get in there, will you? You have the flag.
Yep. Got it.
We ready? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You should tell us to unmute our microphones for that so we can say it together.
Yeah, we should have. All right. Minutes approvals. We have minutes approvals? We don't have any. Do we have minutes to approve, Molly?
Yes, we do. They were sent out with the agenda for today. They are
Okay.
from our January 23rd, 2020 meeting.
I move the minutes from January 23rd, 2020.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion on the minutes? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. We typically at our first meeting of session conduct our election of delegation chairs and such. Does anybody wish to make any nominations?
I'll move the
Nominate Haven.
second.
Any other nominations? All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
All right. Yeah, last year, we undertook the election of a vice chair. Any nominations in order for vice chair? I'll
Who
make it,
was our vice chair?
April, I nominate
Delegate
April.
Rose.
Go ahead. I nominate April vice chair.
Second.
Any discussion, any other nominations? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 All right. Senator, we've gotten through our preliminaries.
Okay, yeah, well, I think our first bill on the agenda is the request for a salary request from our sheriff, Jim DeWeese, for the sheriff position. And I'm going to have him address us. We wanted to have him first on the agenda. The request is a raise to $140,000. It would be done in two increments, $15,000 at the start of the next term for whoever the sheriff happens to be after the election. And then a year later, an additional $15,000 increase. That's what we've put in for a draft for the bill. And I wanted to have the sheriff come and talk to us about the request. And so with that, if it's okay, Mr. Chairman, I'll call Sheriff DeWeese to go ahead and start.
Sheriff, glad to have you.
Thank you. I appreciate it, everybody. Thank you for having me. Just a real quick brief on the request. You all know that the Office of the Sheriff is a state office elected locally. I serve the citizens of Carroll County, the sheriff does. The salary of the sheriff is assessed and adjusted by legislature, typically upon request, like it is this year, and every 4 years, it's usually looked at and assessed. Just to give you a kind of a basic rundown of what the sheriff in Carroll County does, essentially runs 2 different operations that in other counties would be run by a chief of police and a director or a warden. The sheriff in Carroll County is one of 10 sheriffs throughout the state that manages law enforcement, corrections, and oversees court security for the circuit court. And I believe the sheriff in Carroll County is the only sheriff in the state that also has deputies that support the district courthouse in Maryland. Listen, in order to attract qualified individuals to run for the office, the salary, I believe, must be adequate but not lucrative. And in order to continue to attract that, you've got to assess it periodically. And there are a lot of demands on the sheriff in Carroll County. This is certainly not a retirement job. I'm a retired captain from the Maryland State Police after 25 years. And there are far more demands on the sheriff of this county than there were as a captain with the Maryland State Police. And I'm living it every day. And a leader, you know, the sheriff of this county also has to understand the constituency and the folks that they represent. And I think all of you have seen the value of having a law enforcement leader that is qualified and quality during very difficult and trying times. And we need quality law enforcement leaders. And in order to attract those folks, you've got to maintain the salary. And there are many law enforcement executives around the region, men and women that call Carroll County home. And I certainly would not want them to look at the office and the salary and say, I'm not going to run for that particular office, albeit they're qualified, and stay in the position that they're in, whether it's Baltimore, Montgomery, Maryland State Police, or a federal agency, because the salary is not strong enough for them to leave the position that they're in. And I also believe that there are some really smart men and women that are internally within the sheriff's office that could run for and hold this office and do a fine job. But if they attain currently the rank of a tenured major, they would take a pay cut to be the sheriff. And so I've sent several options to Senator Reedy, and like he said, this is 2 years from now for the individual that's elected sheriff for the next term. And so I'm asking that the delegation take the request seriously, look at it, and feel free to ask whatever questions you guys have, if you have any that you want to clarify.
Sheriff.
It's Susan. I just was wondering if you could, I don't have any documentation. It's just nice every 4 years to educate ourselves on where we are with our deputies. And as you mentioned about the 10-year officer, it'd be nice for us just to understand what the scales are and then what the other counties have, and then maybe even the state police, so that we just have something to refer to justify our vote.
Well, I'd be more than happy to send that to you, Delegate Krebs. And you know, I keep close eye on salaries and adjustments for my deputies and make sure that I work with the commissioners to make sure that they're competitive, so I don't lose them to Howard, Baltimore, MSP, those places. But kind of give you an example of the salary of the sheriff currently is about $15,000 to $20,000 less than a lieutenant that runs the state police barrack in Carroll County. The salary of the sheriff of Carroll County is about $160,000 less than the salary for the chief of police for Howard County, Baltimore County, Prince George's County, Montgomery County. Those folks make a decent salary, and the officers and the men and women that work in those jurisdictions also make a nice salary. As I look at the salaries in my organization, there are 11 people currently that make more than the sheriff makes for this county. And as funding becomes available and I'm able to work with the commissioners to increase those salaries in short order, there will be quite a few people that make far more than the sheriff makes. And that's problematic in that, again, I've got some people that I think internally that are really smart, that are holding strong positions here that could run for the office, that are homegrown, that know the constituency, that know the county, and are smart individuals. but it wouldn't behoove them to run for the office because they would take a significant pay decrease. Also, the sheriff does not accrue leave. There's a retirement that's in the civilian system. It's 1.6% a year that can't be drawn until you're at the age of 60. There are no buyouts. It has to be a job that you simply want to do to serve the people. And so that's why the request has to be looked at, or the salary has to be looked at every 4 years. I can send you all
Sheriff,
documents.
let me
Sure.
ask you a question. So how, this proposal that we're talking about, how would that put the sheriff of Carroll County in relationship to like the sheriff of Frederick County or the sheriff of Harford County, two comparable jurisdictions, I guess?
Yeah, they're comparable in that they do exactly the same job that the sheriff in Carroll County does with corrections, law enforcement, court security, those sort of things. And the salaries would be very comparable. They would be competitive with the sheriff of Frederick and Harford County. And I do that a lot by looking at like organizations to mine. Also in comparing my deputy salaries, I try and look at like organizations that surround mine and do the same thing. But they would be comparable to those organizations as well.
And you have a number of underlings, I guess, for lack of a better word, who are making more than the sheriff's salary provides. Isn't that right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I would say that that's not terribly unusual because it's a salary that gets assessed every 4 years unless it is tied to a
Something.
percentage of someone else's salary. I mean, I threw that as an option. I'm not a fan of that. I think that the sheriff's salary should be discussed publicly. I think people should know what the sheriff makes. I'm not running from that or hiding from that. And I want to make sure that, again, as I said earlier, that it's adequate but not lucrative. I just simply don't think that public servants in the position that I'm in should make salaries that are just absolutely astronomical. And I serve the people, and I serve at the pleasure of the people. And whether I run in 2 years or not is certainly a personal decision. I think you've got to look at the job, not the individual in the job. But you also want to make sure you're attracting, I mean, more now than ever, that you've got smart, educated, experienced, quality men and women that are seeking these jobs that can make quality decisions. And I think we've seen that regionally and nationally over the last year, that you've got to have good people in these jobs.
Just to clarify a point you made a second ago, you talk about being comparable with Frederick and Hartford. What you're meaning is the suggested increase to 140 would put us pretty much in the same ballpark as Hartford and Frederick. That's what I thought.
Yeah,
I looked up Frederick's salary. I did not look up Hartford's, but
the current salary of the sheriff here is I would say significantly lower than
Right.
those two as we sit right now.
Delegate Kittleman.
Yeah, thank you. I have two questions. One, you mentioned the police barracks. I'm assuming that's state police, right? There are no Carroll County police. Is that?
No, I am the Carroll County Police here.
That's exactly what I thought. And this one is just for my own personal interest. What is the salary of the Howard Police Chief?
I know Chief Myers well, and in fact, her husband and I worked together for quite a few years. I believe she's in the mid 200s, either 250 or 260, and that would be the same for Baltimore County. I know what Chief Harrison in the city makes, and people will say, well, they've got much more responsibility. It's all relative to the job that you're sitting in. Those people in big organizations have big staffs that can handle certain things. I don't, and so we tend to be everything for everybody, but they're in the mid 200s for those organizations.
And you do a really good job, and I like the fact that you're saying it because that's what you need to attract good people. I think that is the reason you do it, more so than to be comparable to other people per se. But thank you.
Yeah, you're yes, ma'am. I could I'm not shy to say this. I probably could find a job that pays a hell of a lot more with a lot less stress than what I'm doing right now. So for me, it's really laying the groundwork for the future, making sure that we have good leadership in place.
Are there other questions for the sheriff?
Quick one, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Delegate Pippy.
Of the 10 jurisdictions that have comprehensive sheriffs, I guess as I call them, where are you? Are we at the bottom end of that for
I
salary?
would say that I'm in the middle of it. Sheriff Carroll did a study a few years ago of salaries. I believe that as I sit right now, that I'm probably in the middle of that range. Now, so those sheriffs would be, and I can name them, it's Cecil and Harford counties, and it's Southern Maryland as you go from Charles County south, and it's myself and the sheriffs west, Frederick. Those are the 10 jurisdictions. So if you look at them and what the market yields in those areas, I believe that we're closer to the middle or below the median for salaries.
Thank you.
Any other questions for the sheriff?
Okay, hey Haven, thank you. I appreciate you guys letting me on. Good luck in Annapolis. May God bless all of you as you make decisions. I know it's going to be a difficult time, but you're doing the people's work, and I appreciate it. So God bless all of you, and thank you.
Thank you, Sheriff. Thanks for joining us. All right. I mean, this is one of those situations. I mean, it's never a good idea to talk about raising salaries for elected officials. Nobody likes to talk about that, particularly I guess when we're in the midst of a global pandemic or whatever, and a lot of people are suffering. But this is a different situation altogether. I mean, this is for our primary law enforcement officer who's responsible. I think the statistics show for over 70% of the policing that happens in our county. I mean, the other 30% is handled by our municipal departments across the county, and it doesn't kick in until after the election. Of course, that's state law. It wouldn't kick in until after the 2022 cycle, and even then, it's phased in under the proposal that Senator Reedy and I have discussed, and hopefully by then, good Lord willing, this pandemic situation will be well behind us, and it puts him on a par with jurisdictions like Frederick and Harford. So, to me, it's a vote for making sure that we have qualified law enforcement in that top spot in our county. And I mean, it seems like a no-brainer to me, but those are my 2 cents.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to move favorable on it.
Is there a second?
Like the second.
Any further discussion?
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Listen, I appreciate all the comments, and I appreciate that the sheriff came to us with the proposal, which we appreciate, because there's other offices that have not done that. The only thing that I asked for, just for the record, is just to have something to look at for these comparisons. I want to be able to defend it. And usually in the past, when we've done this, we have something to look at. I mean, I try to write it all down so that when someone asks us what we compared this to, I can have a document. So I'm not opposed to it. I just think procedurally, we need to be a little bit more deliberative of having something to show. I'm like writing stuff down diligently, but I appreciate him coming to us, but I just don't know why there's not. It's always in the past, we've had the list. Here's what we came up with, so we could go back to it. So it'd be nice just to have that, even if we vote on it, so we could, make some intelligent comments and not just from my notes. And again, I appreciate him coming to us. We do have other, sort of off topic, but we have other groups that have not come to us, and we haven't raised for many, many years, whether it's Orphans Court or whatever. And I'm not sure how we get that information out to them, but for all those positions as well, we want to make sure we're attracting good people to run for office. And I'm not sure if they know to come or not, but we really should be looking at all, every 4 years, we should at least be looking at all of the salaries that we control, whether it's the commissioners. We've asked the commissioners to come with a proposal. They haven't done it. But just food for thought. But if we could even get it after the vote, just have something to.
I to speak to that, I definitely think normally we always try to have the bill in front of us, before we vote. This is obviously a little more straightforward in the sense that it's a salary increase, but we have.
I'm not asking for the bill. I'm not asking for the bill. I'm just asking for the backup. The bill is, I trust you're going to get the bill. I'm looking at just the schedules, here's the proposal, here's what the salaries are in the other counties. Here's what my sheriffs, that way, at least you have something to back it up. I'm not asking for the bill.
Yeah. Oh, sure.
I believe Sheriff DeWeese said during his presentation that he was going to send that to us already.
He did say that, yes.
Yeah.
We'll be sure we get that. Yeah, that's a good, we can have that for backup information for sure. I did some research as I was looking at once I got the request, but obviously we want everybody to have that. That's fine. I think that's a good point. And just so some people on this call that are not from Carroll know, I know Delegate Krebs knows, but the state's attorney is tied now in Carroll County is now tied to the circuit court judge salary. So that's why the state's attorney is not making a request this year. And we didn't get a request from the commissioners.
I think it's the district court judges set
Oh,
up.
district court. Yeah, district, not circuit. Yeah. So that's why the state's attorney is not, some of the salary positions are, and like the register of wills, I think they always come with like a statewide sort of, look at it. But salary, it's nobody likes to talk about increasing salaries necessarily. And I think probably organizations like the county commissioners and school board this year would be like that they wouldn't want to ask for a raise. We probably do need to have a look at some of the county offices more closely, for sure. I definitely agree. That's a good point. So we can get all the information to everybody, but we have a motion now, right? So we want to roll call.
In a second. All right, we're gonna do a roll call. Okay.
Just real quick, Mr. Chair, point of clarification, we're voting assuming the information we heard is all accurate, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, roll call.
Roll
Yeah.
call.
Senator Reedy,
Yes, aye.
Huff, Senator Huff, did he leave?
Yes.
There he
Yes.
is. Okay, sorry. I'm looking around the screen. Delegate Pippy,
Aye.
Delegate Krebs. Delegate Krebs. Delegate Novotny,
Aye.
Delegate Rose,
Yes.
Delegate Kittleman,
Yes.
Delegate Cox,
Aye.
Delegate Krebs. Did she leave?
I think we lost her.
Okay, so all,
Delegate Shoemaker.
oh, Delegate Shoemaker, sorry, I'm not calling you.
Aye.
Thank you.
Delegate Krebs is texting me that her screen has froze. We will certainly allow her if we can get her back in to vote.
Okay,
To record her vote before the meeting ends.
okay.
And I apologize, Mr. Chair, I had to jump off, but I did want to be on here to vote for the sheriff's salary because I was in favor of that. And I'm in favor of the other things. I won't be asked to vote in abstention, but I apologize, I have to jump off, so.
Okay, thank you. Next item. Carroll County Instant Ticket Lottery Machine. This is to the Elks Club bill. I think we've done this one before. Haven't we done this before, Molly?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
I think we have Mr. Samios on to discuss the issue.
Pete?
Sorry, we had it in last year.
Yes, I'm here. Yeah, we've put this bill in some form or another for the last 3 years, I believe. And the casinos obviously are against it. But to give you a little history, back when they approved the Prince George's County Casino, they needed some votes. So they authorized military clubs to have 5, what they basically are slot machines run through the lottery. Carroll County, the VFW and the American Legions, they all have them. The only 2 clubs that don't have them are the Elks Club in Westminster and the Moose Club in Westminster. The Moose currently does not have any kind of lottery at all. So if this would pass, they would have to join the lottery for be a lottery agent first, and then they could apply for the machines. To me, it's just a basic fairness. The state needs money. It's a win-win situation, I think. It's not going to be a huge amount. 5 machines in a Elks Club might do $2,000 a month gross. I don't know the exact part the state gets out of that, but probably about 30%, 35%. Just guessing. I don't really know for sure. Haven might know that. It's ways it means they handled that before. So that's the first step. We ask you to approve it, so we can put it in. It's still going to be a very hard job to get done, and we'll go to committee and see if we can get it out of committee. So we've lost every time so far, but I don't mind going back again as long as you all allow me to do it. If anybody has a question, I'd be more than happy to try and answer that.
Questions for Mr. Samuels? Anybody?
We have a couple new members or relatively new folks. So just making sure it's clear that this is to allow for fraternal, and in the law it says sororal organizations to have access to a limited number of slot machines. The state would get some revenue, and the organization would get some revenue. We're putting it in as a local bill. There have been statewide bills, which we also have supported, all of us, to try to allow this to happen. The opposition has tended to be I think the bigger problem, candidly, has been more in the Senate than the House. Not from me, of course, but from folks that, including now the late President Miller, who wasn't a big fan of letting the little guys get these. So we're putting this bill in again, also trying to see if we can get a statewide solution. But that's just so we're clear I know with Delegate Novotny, and I'm not sure if some of the other members that aren't in the county remember all the issues, but that's what we're trying to do with this bill. And it would primarily be the Elks Club in Carroll County. There's maybe, did I get that right, Pete? It's the
Yes.
Elks. Yeah.
Really, the Elks Club would be the only club eligible right now. The Moose would be eligible if they become a lottery agent.
Right. So it's possible some others could take advantage of this and it might promote them to take advantage of it if it was available. So that's why we have the bill. So yes, I'd like to go ahead and move the bill, Mr. Chairman, if I could.
I'll move the bill. I'll move that the allow for the instant ticket lottery machine at the Elks Club.
Great.
Second.
And also, excuse me, I'd like to be recorded in the affirmative for the previous vote where I was frozen out.
Yeah, I told him when we got you back on. Yep.
Thank you.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. All right. Any other discussion on the Elks Club bill? All those in favor?
Aye.
Are we doing a roll call on this too?
Yeah,
You want a roll call?
Roll call.
Why not? We'll do a-
Brady,
Yeah. Aye.
Novotny,
Aye.
Cox,
Aye.
Hittleman,
Yes.
Krebs,
Yes.
Pippi,
Yes.
Rose.
Yes.
Did I get everybody?
Shoemaker.
Oh,
You keep
that's
forgetting
some
me.
missing. Every time.
Yeah. Aye.
Thank you. Sorry.
That's all right. I'm getting a complex.
Just
No
for
wonder
the-
my numbers are off. Okay.
For the benefit of the public record, I think I'm going to have to convene the other 2 senators to get an affirmative vote from at least one of them so that we can officially move it on the Senate side. But I don't think that'll be a problem. Senator Huff had a voting session, his committee today, and I think Senator Hester had a voting session that came up. So we're going to try to, hope we probably going to have one more meeting at least of our whole delegation for a couple of other issues. But we're trying to get as much done as we can because a lot of these are just, sort of pro forma technical. So anyway, but just for the record, we'll have the Senate delegation have a brief meeting and vote on these bills.
Yeah, maybe in the interest of efficacy, we might have to have that delegation meeting as early as next week sometime, just to get it done.
Yeah, we could talk about that at the end, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Public facilities bond bill, the annual bond bill for the county. Mike Fowler on?
Yes, Delegate Shoemaker, I'm here. So what we have is what we bring to you every year is the bond authorization request for Carroll County's public facilities. You should have a list of the projects associated with it. So we would request that you an affirmative vote and move the bills forward.
How much is that for?
Carroll
How much
County
is-
Public Facilities bonds. 48.45 million.
Yes.
Right. Okay, any questions for Mr. Fowler, who's our liaison from Carroll County Government? All right, is there a motion?
I just made a motion.
Oh, did you? I didn't hear you.
I move that I move the public facilities bond requested by the county commissioners for $48.45 million.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? Roll call on this.
Delegate Shoemaker.
Aye.
Sorry, I had to ask you again. Rose. She's still here?
I'm here. I was muted. Yes.
Pippi.
Yes.
Krebs.
Yes.
Kittleman.
Yes.
Cox.
Yes.
Novotny.
No.
Reedy.
Yes, but again, we may have to have a meeting
Okay.
of the three senators.
Okay. Is that everybody?
Yes.
Okay. All right, legislative bond initiative. Carroll County Youth Services Bureau. Lynn Davis.
All right. Thank you, Delegate Shoemaker. Excuse me. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for your indulgence in considering our bond bill requests. I know that this is a late request and I apologize for that. For those of you who don't know us, we're an outpatient mental health clinic serving all ages of people in Carroll County. We've been here since 1972. And we have approximately 50 of our staff who do direct services with the residents of Carroll County who have mental health and or substance use concerns. We're currently looking for to expand our mental health treatment services. We run a program here called Assertive Community Treatment, or ACT. You may have heard of it as ACT. And assertive community treatment serves our most seriously mentally ill folks. For example, those with schizophrenia, those who have a major depression, so intensive that they don't leave their home. So these are people who are unable to come to visits at an outpatient mental health clinic. The ACT team surrounds these patients with services such as housing, psychiatric services, therapy services. These folks have moved patients from apartment to apartment. I mean, they really do the real work to stabilize our assertive community treatment patients. They do such a great job that often these patients are able to move to a step-down program. And the step-down program for assertive community treatment is mobile treatment, where they still receive a somewhat intensive level of services, but not quite as intensive as they needed when they first came to us. So we would like to increase our mental health services by adding mobile treatment to our continuum of services. And mobile treatment serves the same kind of folks, but as I mentioned, a less intensive treatment modality. So in order to do that, I know many of you have know that we are still planning to build an addition to our 22,000 square foot building. But in the meantime, we have ACT staff members who are 2, 3, and 4 to an office, which makes it especially challenging during COVID because we have to move them to various and sundry other spaces in the building, so they're not sitting on top of one another. But even in the best of times, they're very crowded offices. So we just came up with the idea at one point about really being creative about looking for space, and decided that we had a porch that was off the ACT program that we were going to look into building into a fully functioning office space, which we have done. We have architectural drawings at this point. We have 4 potential bidders for the project, and the county has approved us moving forward on this project. So the cost is approximately $120,000, which we received that cost amount from our architect. And we are coming to you to ask you to consider submitting this as a bond bill for us for this year.
Questions for Lynn? Anybody?
I just have a question in general. I talked to Lynn yesterday. On these bond bills, is it still that you have to have matching funds?
Oh, yeah.
Yes. So, I mean, so if the project is 120, are we just going to be asking for 60 and they're going to have match, or how are we going to do that?
There's no match this year.
Oh, there's no match this year. Okay. It's just in the past. That's what I was wondering. Okay.
Last year we had to have.
It's always been a match. I mean, unless they changed it this year, we've always had to have a match.
Yeah, I just heard yesterday from Senator Peters, the capital budget chairman in the Senate, that apparently there is not a match requirement this year. Delegate Cox, I think, has a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Senators. And Ms. Davis, I just had a quick question. I was looking for the notes on your request, and my staff is still checking on that. I haven't been able to kind of see what you do. It sounds like you all do a great job, especially during this pandemic time where there's so many people that need additional mental health services. So big applaud to you for that. I just had a technical question. I heard you say something about substance abuse. I know we got an issue in Frederick where they're trying to, or they have a mobile unit for needle exchange. Is that something that you all provide?
It is not. I don't believe we have that in Carroll County.
Okay, so what do you do with substance abuse? Is that a counseling situation, or you don't provide paraphernalia, do you?
In our substance use piece, I mean, actually, we look at mental health and substance use as a combined effort, really. We have therapists who are trained in both treatments, because what we find is usually in substance abuse, there is some mental health component. And why would we send them somewhere else to have, something that really goes together a lot of the times. But in our substance use clinic, we have therapists who are trained in working with folks with difficulties in using substances. We have individual, we have group work with our folks. Our ACT clinic actually has medication assisted treatment with a couple of the patients that we see in there. So that pretty much describes our substance use piece of our behavioral health services.
So I literally had a bad connection right in the middle of your comment. I didn't hear, I apologize. I didn't hear if you actually provide any of the paraphernalia for those who are struggling with addiction, do you actually provide a needle exchange program or any other paraphernalia in that regard, or do you do referrals to those programs?
We do not provide that service, and I'm not sure if anyone in Carroll has a needle exchange program,
So
but
you
our
don't-
delegates could speak to that.
So you wouldn't be providing referrals over to something like that in another county or something, or with the state?
We don't.
And we don't have it in Dan, we've never approved that in Carroll County. The needle exchange program, the health department, we've never approved it. So we don't have it in Carroll.
Good, because I know that's a real significant concern for a lot of my constituents that do not agree with that program. But I really appreciate all that you're doing there for everyone, and hats off to you. I'm going to vote for this, so thanks.
Thank you. Thanks.
Any other questions for Lynn? Thank you, Lynn. That's very informative.
All right. My pleasure. Thank you all. Have a great session.
Thank you, Lynn.
Okay.
All right, haven't heard that. Is there a motion on the bond